Parakeet? George?
Hello, parrot lovers. My name is Marlene McCohen, and this is Picasso, my mustache parakeet, and we want to welcome you to Storytime Sunday. Now, I thought a lot about what today's Storytime Sunday should be, and I always want to catch you guys up on things that I feel you aren't filled in on yet. And today I realized I have been posting some Charlie videos, and some of you don't know who Charlie is. So I thought that today I would tell you the story of my duck, Charlie. Such a random story, but obviously I have a duck. And a lot of you guys are just finding that out, and a lot of you guys are wondering, like, why have you not known this before? So let me start by telling you the entire story of Charlie the duck. So here goes. I was on a prowl to find a baby African gray. I wasn't looking for any African gray. I was actually looking for the reincarnation of my bird, George. I know it sounds weird right now, but I was looking for a very specific bird, and I was just convinced that if I saw George, I would know it was him. And also, I was convinced that if I could find a white-toed African gray, then that would be George, and that would be my clue. Do you see how he's restless today? What's the matter, baby? I always ask them if they want to be in the video, and Picasso seemed like he was pretty interested in being in the video, but now he's acting like he wants something. What do you want? You want a toy? Or you want to go see what everyone else is doing? I know, sometimes when he's separated from Jersey, he gets really, really restless, but most of the time he's pretty cool. He loves to have some one-on-one time. Anyhow, back to the story. So I'm looking for the reincarnation of George. Now, every so often out here in California, there is a bird fair, and I get notifications about it, and I think I had gone once before, or I don't know if this was my first time. I really don't remember, but I had decided that I am definitely going to this bird fair. Most of the time I want to go there because I just want to buy a lot of bird toys for good prices and really stock up and see what else is there. But on this particular occasion, my family was in town, and I thought this would be such a fun event to go to, especially since my dad really loves animals and loves birds. And secretly, I was on the prowl for an African gray. So we get to the bird fair, and it's all very exciting because there's lots of birds everywhere. And sometimes it can be a little bit disheartening because you see birds that like plucked, and you worry about like where they're coming from. So there's a little bit of that too. But most of all, there's a lot of baby birds and a lot of different kind of birds that you obviously don't get to see all the time. So that's also really exciting too. So I'm wandering around taking videos and just like hanging out, and I find this baby African gray. And I don't know why, but I'm convinced this gray must be George, but it doesn't have a white toe. So I'm kind of like pushing the issue on myself, and I keep going back and I keep leaving. And it was like the only African gray that was a Congo or a Cameroon African gray, which is something I specifically wanted. And I was just trying to get myself kind of like attached to that gray, and it let me cuddle it. And I was just convinced. So I think my dad kind of saw that, or he got wind of it, and so did my mom. And I think another issue was that obviously this bird was going to cost $1,500. I didn't have it. I knew that like we didn't really have it at the time. I thought, you know, if I want it, I'm gonna some way miraculously have it. I can get their number and figure it out. But realistically, it was not a good time to spend $1,500 on a bird. So my dad starts wandering around, and everyone's kind of separated. I keep going back to the bird and cuddling it, and I can tell like, you know, the family's getting like, oh no, she's like fallen in love with an African gray. And I can kind of feel like I'm not going to be getting the African gray. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, my sister says, Dad has a duck. And I like heard it, believed it, but like just like didn't really acknowledge it. And then I go back to this African gray and I'm like cuddling this gray, and suddenly I turn around and like this, like my dad has a duck, a baby little duck, like smaller than that video that you saw of Charlie. Like he was like this big, and he was fragile and he was cute. And I'm like, why are you holding a duck? And he's like, I got the duck. And I'm like, what? Well, of course, completely distracted from getting an African gray. Look at the cute little duck. I pick up the duck. I start taking videos of me and the duck everywhere. I must have these videos somewhere. I actually was planning around that time to release them on YouTube, but I don't know why I just didn't. And so I was like walking around going, guess what, guys? My dad just got a duck. So I didn't even really know where he had gotten the duck, but he told me that this duck was very special and he didn't want the duck to go to any farm or anything that could be animal abuse, and he didn't like that all the ducks were sitting in like this clear glass together. Like it just bothered him that they were on top of each other, so he wanted to rescue this duck. So we have the duck now, and we don't know anything about ducks really, but we know that we're going to figure it out. So I'm like, Dad, take me back to the place where the guy had the ducks. And that guy was like already gone. So, baby. So there was no information that I could get. So I went around and got more information from other booths. And I was really excited about this duck. Well, now we have to leave this bird fair. The bird fair is like 45 minutes from where I am in Los Angeles. And we have this baby duck, but we also had other plans for the day because my parents were in town, which was really exciting. So first we decide to go eat. And we go eat and we sit outdoors in a vegan restaurant, and my dad asked them if they could bring like a little box so the duck could have like a little bath. And he still sends me this video. My dad like is one of those video senders, and he sends me the video like every so often of Charlie. And it's Charlie having his first bath in like this little to-go like styrofoam container while we're all eating outside in the sun in this vegan restaurant. And then we decide we're going to a drive-in movie. So we take Charlie and we cuddle him up and keep him really warm. And of course we had food for him and water, because ducks really need to always be drinking while they're eating. So he was really well taken care of course. But while we were sitting and eating, we could not think of a name for Charlie. So we're sitting and we're discussing it, and we're like, how about Lemon? And how about all of these other things? And we cannot really come to like a name that feels easy to say. And after we're done eating, suddenly my dad goes, come on, get Charlie and let's go. And we're all like, Charlie, that's perfect. So his name became Charlie. And we took Charlie to the drive-thru and we cuddled him and kept him all warm and had like all these blankets. And Charlie was like such a baby, and I was so worried about him because not in that drive-thru, but later on at night, I wanted to make sure that like he was warm and that he had everything that he needed so that when I woke up, he would be like, you know, still alive. Charlie's a very resilient, strong duck. And long story short, Charlie basically lived with us until he got bigger and bigger and got all of his feathers. And he had so much personality, and he loved sitting on the bottom of the bird stand, like just sitting there with the birds and chasing me around the house. And he would like follow you wherever you walked. And like, even when he was really little, he would intimidate the dogs. Like he just was a really strong duck. Anyhow, when he got older, we used to start taking him to the duck park so that he could meet other ducks. He wasn't so interested in other ducks, but the rangers at the park would know who he was. And they said that when he gets old enough, he can come to the duck park because he is just like the rest of the ducks there. They're all kind of domesticated. They're all half domesticated ducks. They stay in the park and they get fed by the people. So one day, my dad was ready to drop off Charlie, but that duck park was closed. So he came up with going to another duck park nearby, but I just didn't feel it. So we took him to that duck park and stayed with him all day to see if he acclimated, but I didn't feel like he was acclimating. So we left, and I remember I went out to dinner and I was with George, and I was like, we can't do this. We broke into the park and stole Charlie back and kept him for a little while longer until we could bring him to the original park that I wanted to bring him to, and where the rangers knew that who he was. Anyway, the day we brought Charlie to the park, we showed up bright and early the next morning after, you know, his drop off. He met the rangers, everyone knew who he was, and he was kind of in the same spot, but like he had eaten, and also there's somebody designated there to feed all the ducks all the time, so they all get fed, and they're really all half domesticated in a way. And then I just kept going back to visit Charlie, and every time I went to visit Charlie, they would tell me a whole new story about Charlie and how they never even knew how much personality ducks had until Charlie. The first week I went back, they were like, Charlie is in every bride's wedding photos. Like, there's the bride, there's the groom, and then there's Charlie. And Charlie loves children, so all the children play with Charlie because he chases them all around and he loves to hang out with them. So they learned his name. So after a while, when I started going to the duck park to visit him, all the kids would be like, this is Charlie. And I'd be like, wow, I know. The whole park knows Charlie. Every time I go, there's a different crazy story about Charlie. I have got to fill you in on these stories. Of course, him being in the weddings, to him walking into the cafe next door, to everyone at the cafe knowing who Charlie is, to Charlie and this other goose that are at odds with each other all of the time. But like Charlie is now kind of like the leader of his pack, and that goose is the leader of his pack. And funny thing, that goose is actually was dropped off at that park by a human who owns him too. And now every time I go to the park and I say, Charlie, come here, he runs over to me, and I always bring him food. I always keep food in my car to hang out with him. But here's the weirdest part of the entire story. A week before this situation happened, I always used to go to that duck park to feed the ducks because I met a guy there once, and he said that those ducks need to be fed and they're domesticated. And I didn't know it at the time. I don't think he did, but there are people designated to feed them like twice a day. And so I made it my business to go down there and feed these ducks. So one day I had a dream that I knew a duck there, that I went up to the pond and I said, who's my duck? And he came to me, and I told my mom that dream, and you know, her reaction is probably like, and that was it. I forgot about it. And then when I got Charlie, everything came true. It was like, Charlie, now when I go to the park, I'm like, who's my duck? And Charlie comes running, and it's the weirdest thing. I never had told my dad about the dream. But I also realized when I was going back to the car that day, he got that duck because obviously he wanted to rescue it, but mostly he wanted me to come away with something and not be sad that I couldn't get the African gray, right, baby? So it was like really exciting. Like, he just wanted us to feel fulfilled. And Charlie like changed our life. Till this day, my dad loves Charlie videos. It's like he's looking at a grandchild. I'm like, Dad, I have some new Charlie videos. He's like, oh yes, I love Charlie. Show me, this is my Charlie. And they love hearing stories about Charlie. My dad loves whatever the rangers tell me. Like, he says, you see that? Look at that duck. And I will continue to tell you guys Charlie stories because some of them are so amazing. And just so you guys know, I go visit him a few times a week. I just love him. So that is the Charlie story. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. please subscribe. I love new subscribers. And come on to Parrot Station on Facebook. It's our group there. I love it. I'm watching all of your birds. And come show your bird and say hi so I can see your birdies. Bye.